James Dickey. Your greatest asset might have been, what were you, the head coach of the Stillwater Junior High at one time?
That was my best. That was my best team. I'll tell you that.
At least they listened to you, right? Back in
They,
those days.
no, let me just say this. I have learned over the years, and I've told players this. Look, just make me think you're listening. You may not be. Just try to make me think. And those guys did that. They did make me think they were listening.
Well, how you doing through all this virus, and how's mom doing?
Well, we're just like most people. We're just sheltered in place. It is obviously something that's unprecedented and different for all of us. TD, and I'm especially concerned because of mom's age being 93, and when you're elderly like that. And I know I've seen some unbelievable stories on television where there's people over 100 who've overcome the virus, but the numbers certainly indicate that when you're that age and you have some underlying medical conditions, it's certainly serious. So I've tried to be as careful as I possibly can.
Does that mean, because we've caught you on occasion out on the tractor and doing, tilling the soil and everything? Have you cut back on that now?
No. I'll tell you this: this ranch has been a savior, because really the routine here now. If the cattle and horses become contagious about the virus, then I'm in trouble then.
It's just crazy what we're going through now. I mean, nobody could have even predicted we'd be talking about the things we're talking about. But let's get back to and we've talked to somebody about Eddie's induction into the Hall of Fame, and I know it's about time and all that. But what was your reaction when you finally heard about it?
I was just ecstatic, thrilled, and I know it's been said and it'll continue to be. I don't know why it took this long. Now it's irrelevant. It's just he's in, and I'm so happy. Very well deserved. I'm happy for the boys, their wives, and his grandchildren. Just happy for Oklahoma State, Arkansas, Kentucky, Creighton, Southern Idaho, the places that he's coached, Tulsa Central, and he's just a great coach, and should have been in there a long time ago. But so glad that he is. I was just thrilled that he's a Hall of Famer. We all knew that he was, but I'm glad it's official.
You said probably what I had to convince myself the first couple of days after the induction, because it's easy, and I found myself doing this during the years when he didn't get in, to get after people, and why didn't he in? But your point is perfect. You're spot on. It's irrelevant. He is in. That's the main thing.
That's right. I mean, the thing that he's very deserving. Was the only coach with 806 wins, 800 plus wins, that was not in the Hall of Fame. And so, whatever the travesty that those of us personally and very subjectively might think, he's in the Hall of Fame. He is a Hall of Famer officially, and I couldn't be more pleased for Coach and his family.
Could you ever envision we would be talking about sports in general the way they are, but let's kind of bring it into basketball? And I think this is the part of this virus situation that maybe doesn't get brought up enough. What effect will this have on either the start of basketball season or the completion of basketball season? I mean, this is so far-fetched. You and we did a million interviews. I'm not sure we could even concocted something like this.
Well, you're correct. You and I were talking before we came on the air about the number of television and radio and just the time that we spent traveling with teams. And when I was at Tech, and obviously I got to know you long before I came to Oklahoma State, and we talked a lot about that. But I'm not very good at prognosticating things, but I was sitting here watching Oklahoma State and Iowa State in the Big 12 tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was watching all the news. I was watching very closely the NBA situation, what was going on in Oklahoma City at the time. And I felt right then, I thought, the basketball season's over. They're not going to play this tournament.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to play the men, the women. They're not even going to finish the Big 12. So I was really surprised that I believe it was Texas and Texas Tech was on the floor warming up in Kansas City, and then they called them off. So
Hmm.
I once that happened with the NBA, I felt like the season, or at least the tournament, was over. Disappointed like everyone else was, because it's such a special time of year. You hate it for the young um, men and women, but then this thing became such a global pandemic concern for everybody that it went way beyond sports. When you have universities, high schools, schools closing down, people just are getting extremely sick. We're losing people. It's been a scary time for everyone.
I've said this to my colleagues around here. Even though, and I don't know what the rule is now, I should be up on it, but there's a certain amount of hours I think coaches can spend with their student athletes in basketball. We're just talking about men's basketball now, but probably women's side as well. Uh, but the main thing is they had the opportunity after camps. They had the opportunity on their own to have pickup games and play these games. Now they're not the greatest games. I understand that they don't do the everything the coaches want them to do, but they don't have that going on now. And bringing in newcomers, this was big for them, and you don't have that going on the last 2 months.
Being in the gym, I think that's the thing that coaches love about their players. They're in the gym, and certainly when they can have pickup games, they build team chemistry, not only in the weight room, in their apartments where they're living, in their social life, but also just being around in summer school, being around academics. It's a time for team building in a lot of different areas, but just being in the gym to get shots up, be able to play 3-on-3, 5-on-5 pickup games, and of all people, if you had to play that little spot with Desmond Mason, you know how hard I tried to recruit him
Yes.
at Texas Tech, and I heard him and DT, what a great player. But the former players that come back and play with them in the pickup games, you just miss. There's a lot of things, but I feel for society in general, this is something that the majority of us have never seen anything like this at all.
Kids are resilient, and there's no doubt in my mind that if they can't come back until July 31st, I mean, they're going to get into the swing of things. I mean, that's just the way the kids are. So I'm not being too dramatic in that, oh my goodness, college basketball is going to suffer because they weren't here during the summer. But I agree with you, and I've seen it happen. There are a couple of leaders who emerge in those pickup games. Sometimes it's push and shove and all this, but nonetheless, they do emerge.
Well, I think there's great leadership in college athletics, and certainly at Oklahoma State, uh, from the president, athletic department, Coach Holder, and the head coaches. So, whatever sport is going to be, those coaches will be very smart. They'll put their student athletes first. And you're right, they will be resilient, but they will give them time to prepare, get in shape, and whatever the season happens to be, whether it is if they cut the number of games, whether it starts late, it's postponed for a while, uh, they'll adjust. Coaches will adjust. Players will adjust. This is really, I think, being a former coach, this is really, really unusual because as coaches, one of the things we like to do, we like to be able to control the environment,
Yes, yes.
and we can't do it now. I mean, we are being told what to do, when to do it. But I think coaches have gotten really creative with all the Zoom and doing there's a lot of team building on these Zoom calls. They're having motivational speakers. They're still spending a lot of time, but we just talked about Coach Sutton being a Hall of Famer. One of the things that he did best was spend one-on-one time with players every day. He wanted them to come by that often, and I know coaches miss that. They miss seeing their athletes, and I think athletes miss that because they believe in these coaches, they believe in their university, and they like to be around them. That's just part of the educational process as far as the sports are concerned, and being on a great campus like Oklahoma State and having great academic support, and being in a wonderful town like Stillwater. players they miss that.
I would assume you become somewhat of an expert in Zoom now, right? You probably know how to do all that.
Well, no, I have not. I'm just mad because I didn't buy stock in it about 6 months.
Me too.
But I have talked to a lot of coaches, and I have gotten a little education on it, and at least I know what it is. I wasn't even sure I knew what Zoom was, 4 months ago. But I've talked to a lot of the guys that I've worked with, and I try to, stay in touch with a lot of people. And I think that the questions that all of us have in athletics are probably a lot of the same questions we have about this COVID. We just don't know. You don't know what the date's going to be. You don't know how they're going to, when they're going to let the athletes come back, who's going to come back, when they're going to let the students back. Are we going to have school in the fall? There's just so many unknowns.
I asked you this a couple of days ago, and you are in it. From what we can ascertain here, that there'll be and I put this in quotes, public uh, way that one can see the video Eddie, the documentary that has been in the making for, my goodness, 4 years, I think. Uh, and it's supposedly going to be up in a film festival in Oklahoma City sometime next month. And we're getting closer to it. But you had not seen it, is what I'm getting to is, and you're in it a lot. I've seen it 3 times, and you are in it a lot. And I was going to ask you, when you got the Kentucky job as an assistant, were you like 15 years old or what? I mean,
I was 14.
you look like, I thought that I had to look 3 times. Surely that's not him.
I'm only 51 now, TD. So you can count back. I think Larry Reese was so kind. He got a sneak preview, and he called me, and then Chris, the producer, he sent me. I have the documentary. I think part of me I wasn't going to watch it until after Coach got inducted, and he did get not inducted, but it was selected. So I put it off there, and then this COVID deal. I haven't watched it yet. And as I told you the other day, you're always concerned when you do something like that. Hey, did you do the right? Did you do a good job? Did you say the right thing? Because it's that one of the things that they wanted to do as a family, coach's family, and Chris was to tell the whole story. And so there's some wonderful times, but there's some things in there that there's some tough questions at times, and I was certainly concerned about that.
One of the first things I did after the first showing of the family was go to Scott, and I said, Scott, what was your reaction? This before I had seen it,
Right.
and he said he thought it was very fair, and he said he thought the family thought it was very fair, and not knowing, because Eddie can't communicate and tell you what he thinks about it one way or the other, but he thought his dad would think it would be very fair. And it is a true depiction of all of us. I mean, we all have our frailties, we all have our strengths and peaks and valleys, but it's a total picture. And I thought there are a lot of people who had parts in it, if you will, who had input into the actual documentary. And as you said, there were good times, and you sometimes we like to just put off the bad stuff and we put it out of our minds. But it's not a lot. There's a lot of good things in that documentary. I can tell you for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean there's like great things in there. And one of the things I first did when they approached me about doing is I called Steve and I said, "Is there something that you want me to do that's going to be okay with you guys?" And then what direction are they going with this? And then I thought Chris Producer did a wonderful job, and but I will tell you, you and I talked about this a couple of days ago. When you walk off that set and they turn that camera off, you're thinking, "Oh my,
Yeah.
I don't know why I did this." But anyway, I hope it's great. And the thing that I was concerned about, obviously, was how were the boys going to feel? How was Steve and Sean and Scott going to feel? And everything I've heard and indicated that they felt like that it was fair across the board.
Yeah, and I don't want to spoiler alert, but I've done this several times on this show. The more poignant moments come from Sean, and I'll just leave it at that when people get a chance to see it.
Well, I think that's one of the things that they talked about. I know they did with you and I discussed this. Every guest that they had or person who was going to contribute to it, they and the family wanted this. They wanted an accurate account of coach situation when he was at Kentucky and certainly at Oklahoma State.
Well, and I think they got that. In the time we have left, I can't ever let an interview go by without bringing up, and it bears bringing up because I forget who it was, and I should go back and see who the opponent was, but it was the famous scouting report that.
Oh, I can tell you exactly.
The guy hit 27 in the first half or something, and we didn't have him on the scouting report.
Well, there's two things that there's a lot of things I can mention about Coach Sutton about, but I know you will never let me forget it. This happened to be against Arkansas State. We were playing Arkansas State. In fact, Dickey Nutt was the coach. And I heard a little teaser with
yeah.
Houston Dale a long while ago. Dickey was the coach, and Dickey was mad because he thought I'd got Dean Lee to play the game. He goes, "Why would you want us to come over here and get our heads beat in?" Well, they had a player that was hurt. He hadn't played the previous 3 games, and I didn't have him on the scouting report. Well, they warmed up and they played him, and the dude, he hit us. He hit us for about 27. I think he probably had about 17 at halftime, and I was lucky to be on the bench in the second half, to tell you the truth. And you were there to witness. I got a pretty good behind you and all that. But the one that really stuck out in my mind was in Kansas City during the Final Four run, and I happened to have Eastern Washington in that game in Kansas City, and then obviously we won and went on to play Memphis in the second round. But we were tied at halftime, and they were killing us with a high pick and roll. And we were walking. You know how you go out that tunnel right behind the court. Say, Coach Sutton, he waited till everybody got by. He grabbed my arm and he goes, "I'm going to tell you one thing. You better figure out how to stop that pick and roll in the second half." I will never forget that.
What did you say? You were fired about 17 to 20 times, or maybe even more in your career?
Oh, at times, I average about once a week get fired at times. Lucky for me, he forgot about it the next day. But whew, I'll tell you what, that was, and we were really, 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 Tom, we were really good. We were number 2 overall seed, and we're tied with Eastern Washington at halftime. He was hot.
But I do remember we laid it on him in the second half.
Yeah, we did. We did. He goes, "I don't care what you do. I don't care if you go under it. I don't care if you go over the top. I don't care if you hedge it, but you better stop it. Do you understand me?" I said, "Yes, sir."
We spent a lot of hours together, you and I, and there were a lot of great times. And certainly the postseasons jump up in my mind when going back and looking over the good times. Now you had other good times at other places too as a head coach, and they may be part of your priority list. But what comes up if I had asked you one or two great times that you still look back on here at Oklahoma State? What would they be?
Well, there's so many, but I'll just give you some. I know we're pressed for time. Number one is when I first got hired at Arkansas. It was such a dream opportunity to work for Coach Eddie Sutton. That was a dream opportunity for me. Second, when he asked me to go with him at Kentucky, we had the great team at Kentucky. We were the number one seed, and we got upset by LSU. We had to play them 4 times, and that was the year that Louisville won the national title, and we'd actually beat Louisville head to head. But then, 19 years later, and I guess this is without a doubt the highlight. 19 years later, I was so disappointed because I knew we had a chance to win the national title, but we couldn't get to the Final Four. 19 years later, I had an opportunity with Oklahoma State and Coach Sutton to go to the Final Four. And, John Lucas hit that shot against St. Joe's, put us in the Final Four. And that was as special as it gets. And I will one of the things where I should have prefaced this is, when Coach Sutton and Sean asked me to come to Oklahoma State, that was a real turning point for me personally and also professionally, because I got a chance to work with them again. I got a chance to be in Stillwater, be at Oklahoma State. It led into both my children going to Oklahoma State, getting their degrees from Oklahoma State, which is really important for me that Lauren and Jared are both Oklahoma State grads. Build an unbelievable group of friends there. Stillwater's like home to me. So there's so many highlights, and we beat so many good teams along the way. Coach Sutton, he was just a tremendous coach, and for me to be a small part of a lot of wins was important. But those are just a few of the highlights.
I know one low light is when we beat you over. We beat you in Lubbock.
Hey, that's the time when the three officials were all wearing orange.
Come on!
I promise you, I was at my first year at that we played in the Big 12 when they joined leagues. Coach Sutton called me. He goes, "Hey, you need to get another job. We do not need to coach against one another." Well, we had a pretty good team. I had Corey Carr and Tony Petit, but we came to Gallagher, Iowa, and I was telling you that story about the shot before halftime. And I love Kent Bunker, but he was a little slow on the timer during that time. But we actually won in Stillwater. Well, the next year we came, we were in great shape, and we blocked out on a free throw and had the rebound, and somebody just, they went right over our back, took it away from us, stuck it in, and of course that was my infamous chase the official to the dressing room.
You know what? Some images never go away, and that
you remember Arkansas State scouting report, and you remember that game when you know who should have won that game.
You know what? Since I don't work there now, I can say you're right. But but at the time, and I still knew you're right. We went over the back on that.
Coach Sutton even know he's we absolutely, both of us, did not like competing. And Sean as well. We did not like competing against each other. That was not a lot. And then, they really, I had Rayford Young, who had two great games against the Cowboys.
Yes.
On Big Monday in Lubbock when we won the game in overtime. And and I got to coach Adrian Peterson on the European tour. What a wonderful young man he was. I recruited Alex Weber. I'd recruited Desmond Mason. There were so many guys that I tried to recruit unsuccessfully, I might add, but I did have, we had some good players that played well against the Cowboys. Corey Carr, Tony Petit, who both played in the NBA. So, and Rayford Young, who's terrific, was terrific as well. So we had some great battles, but I didn't like competing against Coach, and he didn't like that. So I ended up coming back and joining him, and great thrill and great privilege for me to come to Oklahoma State, work for Coach Sean.
And we won it. We won that game fair and square. Now you know that, right?
TD, you're too good a guy to tell a fib like that.
To this day, that's.
I was so hot. I had lost my mind.
I was laughing all the way up the tunnel.
Oh, you were, but I had lost my mind.
Hey, it is always good for you to join us, and we can catch up and reminisce on this show. We don't do it enough, quite frankly. Our best to your mom, and hopefully things are going well there. I see Jared from time to time, obviously.
Jared speaks so highly of you. He saw you the other day, and I was proud of Jared because, like a lot of people, he got furloughed during this, but he was creative and got out and got him a job, and he's doing some lawns, and one of them happened to be yours, and he was glad to see you, and I appreciate you taking time to say hello to him.
Oh, we had a good time visiting, and we took some shots at you, but that's okay. It's natural that we would do that probably.
Hey, as long as I've been in, you got to be tough and take it.
You do have that thick skin.
It's a pleasure as always to be on you. You're a dear friend. We've known each other for a lot of years. We've seen a lot of battles, but my best to you and Dana, and also to everyone over there. I hope they stay safe and healthy.
James, I always appreciate it, buddy. Best of luck, and we'll stay in touch as we always do.
Thank you, TD.
Thank you, bud. That's James Dickey, and they don't.